y'all. Welcome to Free Our Mind Fridays.
Let's get liberated.
My name is Leilani. I'm the director at Bay Peace.
Yes, and I'm Julie. I'm the Communications and Development Associate with Bay Peace.
Hey, and if you are new to this space, welcome. We drop new Free Our Mind Friday episodes every first Friday in honor of town business.
And for those who don't know, Bay Peace offers holistic youth leadership programs where we empower Bay Area youth to transform and heal from militarization, systemic violence, and intergenerational trauma. So yeah, welcome.
Welcome. So today we are going to dig into our mission and the primary issue that our organization focuses on, which is militarization. What is militarization? Well, it is a very complex issue where militaristic practices, militaristic culture, such as extreme and egregious violence, war tactics and strategies, or even war weapons, are used in our communities. And this issue is really important to us because we cannot stand for our communities being treated as if they are war zones. And we do not believe in, we advocate against systemic violence. And so it's really important for us to be able to advocate for peace and safety for our young people in the community, in Oakland, in the Bay Area. And that's why we focus on it. We're one of the only youth organizations in the country to really focus on this issue. So just a little bit of context about our work around militarization over the past few years and the work around demilitarization that has been happening in the Bay Area. So in 2021, the city of Berkeley passed a military equipment ordinance. This was April 2021. It was the first ordinance of its kind in the country. And this ordinance required heavier, or matter of fact, it required oversight in general around when the local police department in Berkeley is able to acquire and deploy military grade equipment in the community. I'm talking assault rifles, armored vehicles, tear gas, automatic weapons, drones, things that are typically used in war. So that same year, 2021, in June, the city of Oakland passed a similar ordinance. It requires the city council and our police commission to collaborate and provide oversight for what the police is doing. The police have to report on it every year. The police have to, seek permission around certain things when it comes to military equipment. And so that same year, 2021, California on the state level passed AB 481, September 9th, 2021. And we are the first state in the country to be doing this work and have laws in place both at the city level and at the state level. And so we've been working diligently to make sure not only that these policies and this legislation was passed, but also to make sure that local police departments are being held accountable to the statutes of these policies.
Yeah, thanks, Lay. Yeah, and so with that, we're put on a project where our staff conducted 9 interviews with Oakland's community to just gather community testimonies to demilitarize the city of Oakland. So yeah, I did that along my peers, Bria and Sam. And it was really interesting just to be out in the community and also show what's in our neighborhoods. And we'll also have it linked as well, maybe down under, but or no, in our YouTube. But yeah, I think some folks were really like surprised, and then also other people were not. And like you could just really show it shows the depth of what Oakland's history and future has like become. But yeah, we wanted to kind of give us some time to also speak about, how it is in the safety and how we feel about Oakland's use of military weapons.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the thick of it. This episode, Lay and I will just be, kind of speaking on how we feel when we know that this gear is being used on like our loved ones and our loved ones, friends and families. So yeah, should we hop right into it?
Yeah, just a last little bit of context for these interviews. Part of the statutes in the statewide legislation and the local legislation is that police departments are now required to do annual reporting, and then they're also required to host a community hearing within 1 month of releasing that report. So Bay Peace was tasked with, trying to get other youth organizations, um, or other community organizations in general to participate in the hearing and basically provide their input. And so that's why Julie and Bria and Sam did these interviews. And, a couple of our leaders and members just expressed a sense of like a sense of concern and, feelings of not being safe to share space with police and be in the same rooms and convene with them. And so instead of requiring folks and like asking folks to all come out, we decided to hold a little bit of a safer space and, have these conversations with them more intimately, put together the video, and then we went ahead and shared it at the hearing with the police commission, with OPD, and with the larger community. So,
Mhm.
two of the questions that we're going to speak to today and kind of just share our opinions about are a part of the list of questions that the Police Commission of Oakland was curious about. And the Police Commission, they're the ones that kind of invited Big Peace into the work. And, this commission is made up of community members representing different districts in Oakland. And so, yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump into these questions.
Yeah. So the first question that we're going to be touching on is, how does OPD's use of military equipment make you feel about the safety in Oakland and also about the police as well? Did you want to start first or should I start?
Sure, I could start first. I mean, off the bat, I think already, even without the military equipment, anytime that I like see police, especially when the lights go off or I hear, their sirens that beep, beep, I immediately get a sense of like, ooh, anxiety or worry or like, ooh, shit, police, watch out. You know what I mean? I already have this feeling of like being on the edge and like, ooh, shit, right? But I think when you add that level of them using military equipment, it definitely it definitely worsens that feeling and that sense of anxiety, like for me personally, it instills a sense of fear. It
Mhm.
also, I already feel like ugh, like rebuked
Yeah.
over the culture of systemic violence
Mhm.
that comes out of government institutions,
Right.
and public institutions. And it honestly makes me feel like police are treating our communities as if they're war zones, like our cities, our streets, this is not the place for war. This is the
Right.
place where you're supposed to like protect us. But for police to deploy military grade equipment in the face of specific examples that I've seen, right? In the face of like the Moms for Housing group, or in the face of youth led protests during the height of the George Floyd protests, right?
Mhm.
Like these are times and moments where people are trying to advocate for justice, are trying to stand up for justice, are trying to speak up for their rights, like greater civil rights and liberties. And then for police to combat that with deploying tear gas and Bearcat armored vehicles, it really goes to show the level of like oppression and repression and the sense of like control and the abuse of power
Yeah,
that is inherently built into the institution of policing.
right.
You know what I mean? So I think ultimately it just makes me feel concerned about our people, and it makes me feel like it makes me feel like the police know nothing but violence. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like they're called out into spaces, um, at least when civilians call them, right? Like when civilians call on police, it's because there is some sort of threat, emergency that we need help with.
Yeah,
But then usually I think when this equipment is deployed, it's like to assert power and dominance and to like oppress and repress people from like getting out of control, quote unquote, right? When we're like doing things or calling for things that are out of the norm, when we're really pushing for transformation or justice. And
right,
when you think about the history of police, right? Like police were established to protect private interests and private property and like capital, you know what I mean? And so it really just yeah, makes me feel concerned about our people and their safety. And I really think that like the police need to this shit needs to be reformed from top to bottom, from front to back, left to right. You know what I mean?
right.
So it's really frustrating too.
Yeah, I definitely feel all of that. It's like you came off like really relatable too. Is like when we even already see the police or hear the sirens or see the lights, like some type of like shock goes into like our system and we get hella tight. And like I've never met anybody else that haven't felt that way around them. Um, so just to have this huge, big military equipment is like, damn, like who are you really trying to protect? Like us or you? Like it really comes down to that. So you definitely hit that. I definitely feel the exact same way. Um, seeing this like equipment doesn't make me feel safe. It doesn't make me feel protected. Um, it doesn't make me feel protected. There was this when I was kind of talking to folks about it, this thought came into my head. And at the time I was watching a lot of action movies. I was watching Transformers because it just popped out, right? And I'm seeing like like they in the movie they had the military like help them out, right? And I was like, yo, like they're fighting robots. Like they're fighting robots. And I remember when I was conducting interviews, someone was really like, yo, like y'all ain't fighting like superheroes and robots. Like, why are you using this on like, humans, like your people, the people like in your community? And that just really stuck with me. And I was like, for real, like, why? Like, why do why does Oakland PD even feel the need to whip out some huge like equipment on just civilians, you know? And it always just makes me think of like that question of who are you protecting? Like, and it really makes me really upset because as BAPs, we've done so many research on like what does people need to feel safe. And no one ever said anything about weapons. Ever.
Not at
Of
all.
all the research we've conducted, no one has ever said weapons. And it just really proves like there's just in more depth um of what safety is and what the Oakland PD needs to do. Um and yeah, I know we'll touch on it in the next question, but it definitely doesn't make me feel safe. I think it makes me feel like I question them more. And I feel like, especially as somebody who is close to so many people who are like from here and that definitely has had a lot of history with, police. It just doesn't make me feel safe at all. It makes me feel a lot more worried for my loved ones. It makes me feel a lot more scared for them. And like it could really just be anybody at the wrong place. And it just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't sit okay with me. It makes me feel very uneasy. And I think as we always talk about this like post-traumatic stress, I also think even like for like folks that have been like in the army, in the military, I've been at war and seeing them use this equipment that they once used out in the middle of nowhere on their streets out like where they came from. I just think like it's putting us, all of us, in a community of stress. And we know that stress could come out in different ways. It could have a huge problem on our bodies. So yeah, I just think there's like a lot of depths into this use of equipment that a lot of folks aren't thinking about. But yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel you on that piece of like stress.
Mhm.
It doesn't create a sense of safety. It creates more a sense of like stress and
Yeah,
worry. Um,
absolutely.
even for them to like deploy military grade equipment when they get calls around like mental, like people who are struggling severely with mental health outbursts, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like the answer to de-escalating people struggling with mental health crisis is not to bring out military grade equipment and wave weapons in their face.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
No, and like, what point are you trying to prove? Is
right,
just not, don't talk to me about your problems. Like, I'm going to put down your problems.
right.
And that's so funny how you said that too, because even when I was talking to folks, they said that Oakland PD was called in. It's on one of the annual, like, the reports.
Hmm.
And it was like, somebody was in their car like homeless, and
Hmm.
someone knew that person, and supposedly they had a gun, and they brought in a whole entire SWAT team to the car to the person living in the car. And it's just crazy to me. Like, I don't know what to expect like from police. And I just know all that military equipment does not make me feel safe. Like, even just seeing that movie in the Transformers, I'm like, yo, like that city was going through it, y'all. Like, we ain't going through something like that. Like,
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that too, because I do think that like the media and mass media, pop culture, whether music, but TV and movies especially, like
Yeah.
you're reminding me of how like one of my favorite movies to watch are like action movies. And like when I think about all the action movies that I watch, they're like heavy violence, like hella
Yeah.
fighting, like weapons everywhere. And to me, subconsciously, it's so entertaining. And it's like, oh, yeah, something is always happening. But then I think subconsciously, or when I think about it consciously, it's like this is really desensitizing people to the level of violence and the issue of gun violence that we face in our country. Like, gun violence is the second leading cause of death for Black and Brown um for Black and brown youth, male
Yeah,
youth, you know what I mean? It's the
yeah,
second leading cause of death for them. And so to just think that the answer in police's mind and practice and protocol is to like deploy these types of weaponry, like it just don't make sense. I mean, I get it if you're, approaching a big time weapons dealer, or
right.
somebody who is like causing
You're in the
severe
history. Yeah,
level of harm and violence in the larger community. Like I get that,
right.
but
Not pulling
these
up.
other situations, like I'm looking at the military report right now. We should like go flash it on the screen or put an image or connect it or whatever. But Bearcat tank used 56 times in 6 months. OPD has 139 assault and sniper rifles that they used 103 times in 6 months. 40 times east of High Street, which is like deep East Oakland, right?
Mhm.
Drones, 16 drones used 55 times. Armored SUVs, right? SUVs that are like bulletproof and like have built-in weapons used 61 times. Like all these things, like projectile launchers, 67 in their arsenal. Crowd
That's
control,
great.
flashbang grenades. They have 417 of these things.
Wow.
Like it just doesn't seem necessary. You know what I mean? It just
Absolutely
seems
not.
so unnecessary. So now that we've talked about the issue,
Yeah.
you've got it out there. You want to transition?
Yeah. Um, so when we were answering, I was definitely thinking about um our next question, which is what do you think OPD could do instead of using this military gear? What do we think? What do we think that they could do?
Man, I'm really glad we asked this question because we do a lot of political ed in the community. And, there's a lot of us feel so strongly about advocating and acting against the issues and like trying to transform them. But to all my organizers and all my educators and all my facilitators out there, I need y'all. I need y'all to get in the practice of if you're going to sit and talk about an issue, make sure you do not leave your community members and your participants in a space to just dwell on the issue.
Yeah.
Make sure you make space to talk about the transformative visions and dreams and the actions that need to be happening so that people aren't left in this space of like issue, but instead
Mhm.
you're bringing them into a space where they feel a greater sense of inspiration, transformation, empowerment, so that we can move forward, right?
Right.
And so to answer these questions, I don't want to speak personally. I actually want to go to our data.
Ooh, okay, Jada.
You know I'm
Receipt.
obsessed with our research and our data. I just
Okay, receipts.
just part of my mission as somebody who advocates for young people is I'm gonna make sure I'll put their voices first.
Right, right.
So we started doing youth participatory action research back in, I think it was 2017. And so every year, our youth design a different set of research questions, a different set of research tools to basically get input from youth in the community about issues related to militarization, violence, trauma, but most importantly, like healing and solutions to violence.
Mhm.
So I am going to just like really quickly graze over what youth have been telling us for the past, what, 5, 6 years, what they need when it comes to healing and transformation and solutions to violence. And these are the things that, in my opinion, police should be prioritizing instead of, trying to get military grade training and military grade weapons,
Right,
right?
right.
So I'm gonna just summarize every year. and y'all could, y'all will see the trends in the data with what young people are saying they need. Mind you, the majority of the young folks in this research is over 500 youth in total across 6 years. And the majority, if not all, of these youth are based in Oakland, Black and Brown and Asian youth, Latino youth, Asian youth. We did surveys. We've hosted these healing center focus groups. We call them healing círculos. We've even done what we call like word clouds, where we put a word in the center and we ask youth to write whatever words come to their mind when they think about things like safety, like healing, like police, like community, right? So let me just start. 2017, this was when we did research about militarization explicitly. The number one primary need for healing and transformation youth express is a healthy and supportive relationship in their family and their community. So police, I'm gonna need y'all to start building relationships with people and youth in the community, okay? I'm gonna need y'all to start building relationships, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Youth need y'all to start building relationships, okay? Don't just come out when it going gets rough, all right?
Right.
Next thing, 2019 to 2020, we did 3. This was a part of our Visions and Voices for Change series. The top 3 forms for healing and transformation youth express is healthy relationships and a strong sense of community, belief in God, spirituality, or a higher purpose, and then 3, creating art and self-expression. So again, relationships at the top. Police, build community, okay? Because what y'all are doing right now, you breaking us down. You breaking down young people. Okay, don't just come out once a year and volunteer and host a community feed or a backpack giveaway. No, it's not enough. Let me tell you right now, okay? Helping young people build a sense of purpose, like provide opportunities for young people to serve a greater purpose, right? Don't just like train them up to become a police. Don't just train them up, and with JROTC, like all those things. Like, no, it's not enough. Art and self-expression, y'all know I'm biased, but that's of course my favorite and most fun part of the work, is like creating space for young people to express themselves and to do so creatively.
Right.
Okay, solutions to violence. We did this in 2020. This is the research we did during the pandemic. And so we focus on solutions to violence in schools, homes, and streets. So let me break it down, right? So in schools, 3 solutions each. In schools, young people said therapy and counseling services, free and accessible art and sports programs, and paid opportunities for youth. In homes, it was affordable housing, again, family therapy, and education and classes on trauma. And then to address violence in the streets, it's free and affordable health care. Police reform, hello, and building shelter for houses community, right? So just a couple of the prominent themes is like therapy and mental health services, right? Housing gentrification is a huge issue, especially in California, especially in Oakland. California is one of the most expensive states, if not the most expensive state in the
Yeah.
country. And when young people don't have housing, when they're struggling economically and financially, like sometimes they have no choice but to resort to things that have been criminalized,
Yeah.
right? So therapy and counseling, mental health, housing, police reform, okay? I'm gonna need y'all to figure out a way to reprioritize your funds and your energy to be able to act in ways that are a benefit to young people's health and a benefit to young people's development. The better resources our youth and our communities are, the less likely they are to resort to violence and to resort to like criminal activities for the sake of their survival. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And then just the last thing, this is what came out of last year's research 22-23, which was about the theme of cultivating healing and community. And again, it's acceptance and understanding from others. Again, self-expression. And then again, accessibility to healthcare, especially mental health resources. And I feel like those three are like the most prominent across the board, right?
Right.
It's those relationships where youth feel accepted and they feel understood and they feel like they belong and are valued. It's where youth have the opportunity and space to express themselves. Like, if youth are over here standing up for their rights and over here trying to stand up for peace, and then you come over here and you trying to shut shit down and you're trying to, you want to deploy like tear gas grenades and send them off, like that's not providing a safe space for young people to express their concerns around safety. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
absolutely.
not cool. um and I think when it comes to mental health care resources, like honestly, the level of education that police are required to have, in my opinion, is not nearly enough.
Mm,
The training that police have is not even comparable to a 4-year degree.
dang.
Let's see, how long is police training? Police Training Academy. Let's see, it's about 13 to 19 weeks on average, up to 6 months. 6 months? Come on now. Come on now.
Dang.
You're putting weapons and lives and safety in the hands of police, and that's all they're required to do.
Dang. Yeah,
Okay.
that's I definitely like the when I was hearing this question, my first thought was just like, yo, more training, more empathetic training. Like y'all are just throwing these people out there. And yo, like I can't even front like, if I ever chose to be a police officer, like I know it would take a lot. Like going out in the community, going out of your home always. And like when you carry a lot of violence, you carrying a lot of violence like around your strap, you feel me? You're going to attach violence. And I think about a lot of that, and I think about more trainings, even more like even like reflection for them of like, yo, how did your day go? And like, what are some things that are coming up for you when you're going out to these communities? You feel me? Like they need somebody to check in with them, just like how we do. Like the work that we do isn't easy. Like we can't just go up in there and like act like everything's cool. Like we're human at the least. And so like they need someone also to like be sure that there ain't they're not coming up with these random ass biases, these grudges against, community members and neighborhoods. I think about a lot more training, a lot of more empathy. And I definitely want a second of like coming out in community and not just doing it when the going gets tough. It's just like them like put on some type of event or something like that, like them freaking have a potluck or something or a barbecue for the community that they are serving, that they are choosing to serve. I definitely think that's how we build community. That's how we done it like in our families, barbecue parties, hey, like, and I
Right.
definitely think it would just be a different scenery to look at police, not as them in the community trying to shut shit down.
Right. Right. Yeah, I agree. And even along those lines of like checking in with them, making sure they're well, like I think being a police, I couldn't even imagine the level of stress that comes with being a policeman,
Mhm.
and like that duty. But it's also like the nature of the work, it's like the nature of the institution, you know what I mean? And I've been on this personal mission in all of our work to really just push the importance of wellness centered workplaces.
Right.
So when it comes to training, not only do I think police need to have training that allows them to build better, healthier relationships with people in the community, but it's also have healthier relationships like with themselves. If this is a high stress work environment, from the like stories that I've heard from police that I know personally, right? Like I have folks that I know in my family, or like folks that I've talked to in passing, who have been police before, or like are currently police or retired or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not only stress in the field, it's stress in the department and in the
Right.
workplace, right? And
Yeah.
so I think it's really important too that like police not only should they have training around like de-escalation practices and figuring out ways to de-escalate without resorting to violence, but it's also like how do they stay grounded? How
Hmm.
are they like what practices are they partaking in to like limit their stress and make sure that when in the face of like high stress a situation or violence, like how are they checking themselves to not be like trigger happy, you know what I mean, and to not automatically resort to tactics that
Right.
will endanger somebody's life. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it, in my opinion, I think they should even get like martial arts training that doesn't use like deathly weapons. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Like figure out how to disarm somebody without killing them, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Definitely. Um, yeah, it's actually really crazy and super sad too that, sometimes we don't like getting told what to do. And we always just are super biased to like things. And I've definitely heard just like some police officers of, we always kind of go, it's like, why do you shoot them like in somewhere that they will die? Like shoot them in the arm or shoot them in the leg or something like that. And they always say, oh, well, it's not certain, like somebody might get hit in the bypass or something like that and some
Mhm.
walking or anything like that. But when you're using military equipment, that means there's not centered.
Mhm.
It's like big huge things, and especially on how many police officers are on one person, it's more easy for a bystander to get shot and killed. And you know releasing your gun like freaking 60 times on somebody, on one person.
Mhm.
So I definitely agree with you of learning how to do something else besides shoot a gun. And you cannot, it's so funny too, because I never realized like the correlation of jobs to police officers. But even in my training this summer, they say like, yo, you're here for the community and you're, providing safety and healing for the community. And you cannot do that if you're not here with us. And I always wondered like, what do you mean by that? And they're like, yo, if you are not taking care of yourself, if your mental health isn't good, if you have all these questions coming up or everything like that, you can't be here like serving the community. And that really goes back and forth to police is like, if you ain't taking care of yourself, you cannot serve the community. And like they really need check-ins, like wellness check-ins, just like us,
Right.
because it's a lot. And like you need to get your headspace before you go out there with like a gun.
Right. Yeah. I think honestly, I think police having military grade equipment really exacerbates the issue of gun violence in our country. You
Mhm.
know, like for gun violence to be the huge issue, like for me, the most concerning issue, and honestly, one of the lowest or the least like regulated issues in the country. And then you add the police using this bullshit in our communities, it
Right.
really exacerbates the issue because it's like the government is reinforcing the issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. It's playing fire with fire. Like,
I'm saying,
yeah,
and like our community members, our people, like we are not the enemy. Come on now, like stop treating our cities, our towns as war zones. Like, come on now. Come on
exactly.
now. Like who are we? Who are y'all really going to war with? Like what's really happening here for real?
Like I said, we ain't fighting no aliens. We ain't fighting no Superman, Batman. Like,
Stop.
let's
Stop.
regroup, let's recuperate. And definitely, I feel like highlight all the things that we said. If folks who are listening, you could always, we're always talking about this in our communities. And yeah, I just definitely sit with it. And even like comment on like what you would want to have OPD do instead of use this gear.
Right, right. I do, before we kind of close out, I do want to just take a moment of silence, just to honor all the lives of young folks and elders too, like middle-aged people who've lost their lives at the hands of police using military grade equipment, just to honor their lives, you know, in light of this issue, like, was not just, it was not fair. I don't think it's ever, regardless of the situation, especially if folks are unarmed, for police to take lives, like using this level of equipment. So let's just take a quick moment, and I want to honor these folks' lives, and our info too, particularly in the Bay Area.
Mm.
Let's take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Let's take a deep breath. Whenever we talk about this issue, I always feel like this level of heaviness, in my shoulders and in my heart. But, you know, just following that moment of silence, want to take a moment to just send love and light and compassion to their families,
Yeah,
and all
absolutely.
the folks still grieving their losses, still struggling with their, you know, the transition of their loved ones. So love and light to y'all.
Yes, yes. And I did want to say, like, thanks to who's listening and sticking with us. You know, we just started really like doing these so y'all could like save, listen, like, and we really just wanted to start off with like the big one, really just to throw it out there. And like I know it could be hella heavy on like this topic, so I definitely want to shout out to folks who are listening, because it could be a lot, you know, even just talking about it, it's a lot. But I definitely want to highlight y'all listening. We appreciate you, we love on you. Yes.
So in closing, we have a couple announcements.
Yes, if y'all want to rep some Bay Peace merch, we got it on our website. Along, if you feel generous enough to donate to us, to our fundraising campaign, you know, we love to get our young people paid. So anything that you could donate, please do so. And you could visit those websites on our website, baypeace.org.
Yes, you know, we got some dope gear in
Yeah.
the gift shop. Check it out.
Yeah.
And lastly, follow us on IG so you can stay
Hey,
updated and stay tuned with all that we do and all that we're going to continue to do. If you didn't know, our organization is primarily led by young people under the age of 23, high school students, college students. So support the youth, y'all. Bay
yeah.
Peace 510, Instagram at Bay Peace 510.
Yeah.
Follow us and let's get liberated.
Let's get liberated, y'all. Well, stay tuned for First Fridays.
Peace.
Peace.